So now we know how to create a sign-up form and save the user's data on our database. We need to have a way of actually keeping them signed into our website so that we know who they are and can show them the right information. And one way to do that is with session variables. So I'm actually going to do that on a new PHP file for reasons that I'll show you later on. So let's create a file called session.php. And then I'll use Command O or Control O on Windows to open it in my text editor. And then we'll just change the URL here to session.php. And I'll do a quick test to make sure everything's connected up. There we go. Great. So to use session variables, we first have to start our session. And we do that using session_start. Simple enough. And then to use the session variables, we do it in exactly the same way as with get and post. So if I wanted to set up session username, for example, I might do something like that and then set it equal to Rob Percival. So now I've created a session variable. So what's special about that? Well, the great thing about it is that this session variable will remain live while the user is browsing our website, as long as they don't shut down their browser. So what I mean by that is, if I echo the session variable username, then obviously first time I do it, it comes up with Rob Percival. There we go. But the great thing is, if I now take out that line and run the code again, it still knows what that username variable is. So this is a great way of keeping a user essentially logged in, because at the beginning of each of your scripts you can check to see if there's a session variable for username, and if it is, then show the username the logged in page. If not, then you'll probably show them a login or a sign up page. One quick thing to note is that you can use session variables on different pages of your website, but you need to have session start at the beginning of each page. If you load a page on your site without session start, then that will lose the session. It's also a good idea to avoid putting any HTML code before you start your session, because that can break your session as well. All right, so let's close that down for a moment and let's go back to our index.php file over here, and let's start our session here as well. And then let's just make sure that we can access that username variable. And there you go, you can see that we can. So that's a completely different script on our server, but we've still got the session variable. All right, so that's great. To give you a bit more of an idea about how we might use this in practice, I'm going to change our script so that when the user is signed up, it doesn't just sign them up, but it adds their email address as a session variable and then redirects them to a second page, which then would show them some information about their new account. So we can do that pretty easily. We'll just set session email equal to the email address that they signed up with. And then we'll do the redirect, which we do by setting a header. And that header is a new location. And the location is the location of the script that we want to send them. I'm going to send them to my session.php file. So we'll just call it session.php. So now this will add them into the database and then add their email to a session variable and then redirect them to our new logged in page. So now this is the challenge bit for you. We're now editing session.php. what I want you to do is check to see if there is a session email variable, and if there is, show them a bit of text like you are logged in, and if not, redirect them back to the initial login page. So if they are logged in, show them any kind of login text, and if they're not, redirect them back to the page with the login form. Go for it. All right, hope you managed it. That was quite a tricky one. But we could do something like if session email exists, then echo you are logged in. And obviously what we would actually do in reality is show them the homepage for our app or whatever it was. And if not, so if they're trying to go to the logged in page but they're not logged in, then we're going to redirect them using header and then location, and we want to send them back to index.php. All right, so we've got two scripts working together there. Let's see if we can make them work. I do still have my session username there. I'm just going to get rid of that to avoid any confusion. There we go. So let's sign up with a new email address. I'll use rob@me.com. Put in a random password and then click sign up. So now, there we go. It's saying you are logged in, and that's actually on a completely new page on our site. So what we've done there is pretty powerful. We've said that as long as the user doesn't close their browser down, they can navigate from one page to another on our site, and our site will know who they are and that they are logged in. So we've essentially got a login system up and running. So that's pretty good. But what if you want your user sessions to be a bit more persistent? You want them to continue even if the user shuts down their browser and comes back a few days later. Well, for that, we use cookies, and I'll show you how they work in the next video.